Before he made a name for himself, people were wondering how good this 22-year-old boy is. He was determined to prove himself at the 2012 Tour of California.
Peter Sagan, nearest the camera here. He has told his team to chase because he believes he can win the stage in the sprint today.
Stage 1 was a target for Peter Sagan, but a problem with his bike at a crucial moment was about to end his hopes for the day.
A lot of people think it could be this man, but this is not the time, Phil, to have a mechanical for Peter Sagan. He is stopped at inside of 10 kilometres to go.
A flat tyre inside the final 10 kilometres is always a nightmare for the riders, especially for a favourite that is expected to contest the final sprint.
15, 16, that's a bad time check.
A sprinter has to conserve every bit of energy for the ultimate kilometre. Any effort prior to that point will take its toll on his performance. So you could imagine how bad his situation is as he's chasing back at over 60 kilometres per hour.
He's using all of his mind. I'm a little bit surprised, though, I have to say, Phil, that none of his teammates have come back to help. Oh, look at the way he's gone round that corner. He's very, very confident and agile.
He's on fire here.
As soon as he rejoined the main group, a crash took out his teammate right in front of him.
There's been a massive crash down there.
He was on his wheel, but his quick reaction and bike handling skills saved him from this one.
They just a touch of wheels, as it always happens approaching the finish. That's Carter Jones in there as well.
500 metres to go. Peter and his teammate are at the front of the race, perfectly positioned for the sprint.
Sagan has gone into second place here. The man who punctured only 5 miles out from the finish. Gas boy is running on adrenaline here.
He certainly is. You can see the line now. Looked over his shoulder. He's waiting for that last little bit of a kick for the line, but he's right in the middle.
As they come up towards the line, Peter Sagan is going to get it. Can you believe that? From a puncture to victory on the day. Bona was there as well. I'm not surprised that Gas boys are saluting this one, because they turned a potential disastrous day into a victorious one.
He made it look easy after a stressful day 1. On day 4, he had 4 stage wins.
Peter Sagan, this guy is unbelievable. He is incredible.
And he added a 5th on the final day of this Tour of California.
Tom Bonan is the second wheel. This is the best chance he's had the whole race. Is he going to... There goes Sagan. Sagan is on the left. Bonan is taking him on. Peter Sagan drives to the line. It is win number 5 for him. Unbelievable. He is just too quick.
With these staggering numbers and that impressive comeback, people's attention was drawn towards this young man, and his Tour de France debut was hugely anticipated. 5 weeks later, the new star of cycling arrived at the biggest event of the year.
Attaque de Cancellara! Attaque du maillot jaune de Fabian Cancellara, c'est Sagan qui répond!
He was the first to follow Fabian Cancellara's attack on stage 1, and a few moments later, a strong trio was formed.
Now Cancellara assessing. He's in a situation here now because Peter Sagan doesn't want to go round him. He wants to win the stage on his first Tour de France. And Cancellara says, well, I'm racing for time. Boysenhagen is under stress here. He's just about holding on. But the sprint is open by Fabian Cancellara as the attack comes from behind Gilbert. And now it is Sagan going for the victory. Can Boysenhagen answer it? This is the first Tour de France for Peter Sagan. And Sagan is coming clear to get his first stage win at the first attempt. That is unbelievable, and win number 14 of the season for him.
Perhaps he lacked experience in comparison to the two, but he made it look easy at the end, winning at his debut stage at the Tour. He rode in green the next day, a colour that will become his favourite for the rest of his career. Stage 3's finish was on top of a steep hill. Climbers and punchers were expected to make their first appearance, but they never stood a chance against an explosive Sagan.
Peter Sagan qui attaque à gauche au bon moment. Il sait tout faire, il est trop fort le Slovaque. Fin d'étape qui lui convenait parfaitement. Il est au-dessus de l'eau, il se signe. Deuxième victoire d'étape sur le Tour de France pour monsieur Peter Sagan.
He won a classic type stage, then an uphill finish stage. But how good will he be in a mass sprint? The answer came on stage 6.
to the finishing line, but he's got to watch out. Oh, and a slip of gears. Something happened, maybe a broken chain. This is Mackos forcing the issue, and look at the run by Sagan as Sagan takes on Henderson. No, a Greipel to the line. Peter Sagan is showing when the going gets rough, this man wins.
His arrival at the Tour was like a breath of fresh air for the fans. He animated the race and turned boring stages into interesting ones. His first Tour de France was a huge success. Not only had he won 3 stages, but also no one came close to him in the points classification, as he kept it on his shoulders for 19 days. He wore it for the same number of days in 2013. It may be referred to as the sprinters' competition. However, sprinters don't usually go for the breakaways, but Peter does. Being in the break means that he gets full points at the intermediate sprints. This is how he dominated the competition for 5 consecutive years. At one point, it felt like green was his by default. Until 2017, when he got involved in that controversial crash with Mark Cavendish, a disqualification that put an end to this streak. But he came back in force in 2018 to win a 6th green jersey. And with a 7th one in 2019, he became the all-time record holder for most green jersey wins at the Tour de France. A record that won't be broken anytime soon and is subject to increase. A victory snatched from the jaws of defeat is the best way to describe this finish.
Because they couldn't invest for too long. Here we are then, it's Martin Allinger tight on the inside. Everybody else, including Kittel and the Hornings here. Oh, they're getting eaten up, are they? One after the other. They're feasting. Everybody else is having their fun, but it's not going to be them. Sagan at the line. Oh my goodness, what a sprint.
His ability to improvise in the middle of a sprint is exceptional. His awareness of his surroundings allowed him to spot emerging gaps through which he navigates. You don't see many sprinters do that. For most of them, nervousness takes over as soon as they hit the 300 meters marker, and all they can think of is pedal as hard as they can towards the finish line. You can see it in this sprint too. Look how he's lurking and reading the situation. He goes for shelter, but realizes that the rider in front of him will not make it, then spots a better position and starts tracking this rider in green until he knows it's time to finish off this race.
Sagan voor nummer 14. Ja hoor, 14e zege in de Tour of California voor Peter Sagan.
And let's not forget that he's doing nearly 40% less effort when he's slipstreaming. He only did 100% effort for these final 5 seconds of the race. In the post-race interview, he described that sprint as God opened the street for him like Moses parted the seas.
Second place and 9 seconds as he went through. Oh dear, that's why he's lost 9 seconds as he goes around that corner.
Any other cyclist would have been on the ground, but this is no ordinary rider.
That's what sprinters do, and that's why
A large percentage of professional road cyclists come from other disciplines. In the case of Peter Sagan, it's mountain biking. This discipline requires the rider to constantly adjust to varying terrains. It strengthens neural pathways and reinforces muscle memory. In this example, he's had to unclip and use his left foot to regain balance on this slippery surface in Switzerland.
Look at this now, because Sagan pulled his foot off the wheel as he come off that bend.
And it didn't prevent him from winning the race a few seconds later.
And he looks as though Baden Cook is leading towards the line here. 50 metres go, another silly bend before the line, and it looks to me as though Sagan gets it.
Fernando Gaviria is the fastest, without doubt, out of these few riders. On the left-hand side, Nasser Bouhanni as Gaviria goes down.
In Milan-San Remo in 2016, a touch of wheels sent Gaviria to the ground in the home straight. On his wheel, Peter shows incredible reflexes that are really hard to catch in real speed. He managed to stay upright thanks to his elite bike control. his reaction time was around 150 milliseconds. That's way below the average person's reaction time, estimated at 215 milliseconds. Fabian Cancellara's excellent bike handling skills in this clip are also worth mentioning. Speaking of Cancellara, in his crash at that year's Paris-Roubaix, he was right in front of Peter. The Slovak avoided the crash by jumping over Fabian's bike. Others that didn't have that level of skill were caught in the crash. During 2018's Hell of the North, the world champion became the center of attention on the internet, not only because of his long-awaited victory, but also because of this moment. With about 30 kilometers from the finish, he got an Allen key from his team car to tighten the stem bolts clamping his stem onto his steering tube. The first key was the wrong size, so he calmly went back and got the right one. He did the maintenance on his bike while going at 50 kilometers per hour at the hardest one-day race in professional cycling. Dozens of riders were chasing him, and more cobblestones were still ahead. It's such a stressful situation in an unforgiving race, but he didn't seem to be worried.
Peter Sagan, we've not seen him all day and he's made the move.
It sometimes takes only one attack to change a cyclist's life.
This is it. There's no looking around. There's no sitting up and waiting. He has to go for home.
Look at the gap he's got as he goes into shock on bottom. Sagan leans a bike over, right on the limit right now. Peter Sagan with 1 kilometre to go. Look at the shoulders, look at the gritted teeth. Is he going to win this world title?
The year that preceded it was a stressful one. He had been publicly criticised by his team boss, and he thought about retiring. All of that pressure evaporated right at this moment. The season that followed was full of success. His full potential was unleashed. But despite that, he wasn't the top favourite to win the World Championships in Qatar. On paper, his chances were low against the pure sprinters. With about 178 kilometers to go, the Brits and the Belgians took advantage of a 2 kilometers long section in the middle of the desert and used the crosswinds in their favour.
And this echelon is forming, and it's forming quite quickly. We'll see whether the tail of the peloton splits here, Rob, but the peloton are now doing 72k an hour.
The rest of the field were in complete shock of this surprise attack. Peter Sagan was among the 73% of riders that were ditched, but he miraculously managed to bridge the gap to the echelon at the last possible moment. For the rest of the field, it was game over. These two teams did the lion's share of the work, but at the end of the day, one man, a third party, took all the glory.
They go for it. They spread wide across the road. Tied on the inside. It's Nizzolo on the barriers. Peter Sagan just showing himself. He's found space where none seems to exist. Bertolucci's is there. Oh my goodness, he's gone and done it again. Oh, what about that? There is only one Peter Sagan.
His odds to win for a third consecutive time were somewhat low, not only because no one had ever done it before, but also because of his illness the week prior to the race. That's what he told the press. Whether he was playing some sort of mind game or he was actually sick remains unanswered. The real Peter Sagan did show up on the race day. He single-handedly kept the race under control by bringing back attackers on 2 occasions during the concluding kilometers. He wanted to redirect this race towards a mass sprint, and he did.
Sprint we're going to have here, 6.5 hours in the saddle, and Sagan's there in 3rd place. He's got himself in a great position here. Matthews is up there as well. Stibar in the Czech Republic. Ben Swift is on the left-hand side of the road in your picture. Swift is sprinting for the world title. It's Alexander Kristoff who's going for it now, and through the middle of the road. This is going to be such an incredible Peter Sagan, the first man ever to win the world title 3 times in a row.
We broke down these 3 world title races in more detail in a dedicated episode we published previously on this channel. We recommend watching it. These were some of Peter Sagan's most memorable moments. Let us know which one was your favourite and what videos you would like to see in future uploads. Thanks for watching.